everybody, welcome back. Northernlion plays a Binding of Isaac AFTERBIRTH. Plus, I can't believe it. We got Kiefer Sutherland's favorite number of wins in a row, 24. You see, that's a reference to the fact that he played the character on 20. Hold on, I didn't unmute the game. You were probably wondering where the game sound was. Anyway, he played a character named 24 in the show Jason Bourne, I believe. Something along those lines. It's going to be a silly episode today, just based on that little dalliance right there. Help me. How we doing? Doing well, thank you for asking. I dare not say it's early. It's gotten me into trouble in the past when I say it's early. It's 8:51 a.m. Not early. It's the time you'd be going into the office. You'd probably already be sitting in your chair. You'd be checking your emails, but like you might not be like on work emails yet. You're gonna be like, hey, before I check my emails, we're just gonna go to the office kitchen. We're gonna get some coffee. And then maybe we'll, I don't know if these still hang around the water cooler. You go to the coffee pot and you say, hey, how was your night? Hey, did you see that video? Hey, I know what corporate culture is like. I could slot right in. I do think about that sometimes. Like, if I had to pivot back to a quote-unquote normal job, I'll just be honest with you, I don't think I have the intestinal fortitude for most blue-collar work. The idea of it appeals to me, but just because I think there's a kind of quiet stoicism to it, and also you're actually doing something instead of just shuffling information around. No offense, I'm literally I'm saying, if you do a real service, if you're a plumber, if you're an electrician, if you're a carpenter, if you work in septic science, you're just smarter than I am, quite frankly, and maybe even stronger as well. However, I don't think I got the intestinal fortitude for it. I worked as a mover for one day in college, and I was the least efficient mover of all time. To be fair, I was working with a couple of people that had done it, clearly for their entire lives. They were doing a really good job. They were physically much more imposing. I was an 18-year-old, college freshman. I was 5'10", 140 or something at the time. It's not the guy you want to... When you hire movers, you don't want to see a little kid show up like that. No offense. You want to see, the other people I was working with. There was one guy was 6'4", probably 280. I swear, I've told this before, but we had to move a fridge, and for some reason it was this kind of a cursed architecture in the house where the fridge was upstairs. I don't know why their kitchen was on the second floor of this duplex, but anyway. Did we not pick up infamy? Hold on. Yeah, you gotta pick up the item, sir. You gotta pick up the item. That was almost catastrophic. Anyway, I was like, how are we gonna get that fridge down? And he said, don't worry about it, and I swear to God, the guy just wrapped one of those belts, a strap that you use in the moving truck to keep all the stuff from sliding around and causing damage. He wrapped it around his back and then around the back of the fridge and just walked it down the stairs. It blew me away. I had never seen such a feat of strength in my life. I'm more of I think I would transition best to kind of like a digital mover. If you need to move information digitally, I'm your guy. Hey, we got a couple of bits. They're in, an int format. We're gonna need to cast those up to a double or a long. Don't worry, boss. I got you. When do you need that by? Tomorrow? Not possible. That'll be $1 quadrillion, please. That's the art of negotiating. Always charge 1 billion times what something is worth. And then even if they only give you 1 million times what it's worth, you're coming out ahead. Where you going, though? I want to buy a bomb. There is none for sale. It's a shame because that is a lucky penny. I'm sure we can make it happen. Anyway. But I always wonder, I wonder if I would be better at... the last time I worked a semi-normal job, I was, in my very early 20s. Essentially as early as it gets. Don't lose the bone heart. It's actually an important one. That's not to say, I was bad at it, but you kind of I think you get more domesticated most of the time as you get older, you know what I mean? I think you'd start to take instructions better, maybe. Just find yourself, you know, I mean, maybe the best way to describe it is rather, like, not in the weird way that I just did, but rather in the sense that, like, you know, when I first was working, I was like the 20-year-old guy in an office with like a bunch of 50-year-olds, so when we had to relate, they were talking about like Dallas and Dynasty and stuff like that, and I was like, have you heard of this hot new band, LMFAO? We didn't really, you know, we got along, but we didn't vibe on that level. I wonder if it would be better now because I'm a little bit older, or I wonder if it would be worse and if I forever poisoned myself from being able to take other people's instructions because I've just been in charge of like my own life for so long and I've been, you know, giving myself orders for so long that I wouldn't be able to swallow my pride and actually like accept feedback and instruction from an organizational superior. You know what I mean? I do wonder about that from time to time. Like if I, and you know, it's not like it's practical at the moment, you know? That Isaac DLC is going to come out someday. However, I always wonder, like at a job interview, does it reflect positively or negatively if you have a 10-year spot on your resume that indicates that you ran your own YouTube channel? There's a lot of positives about it. Like, I kind of find myself somewhere in the middle, right? I don't think it's necessarily good or bad. I think it depends on how you frame it, and honestly, what kind of job you're applying for. Like, if you're applying for, you know, chief of medicine at a hospital, you know, it's probably not relevant experience. I think there's some circumstances. Because here's the thing, I'm just going to tell you honestly. Unless you're pivoting to a world in either, you know, another media profession or marketing or social, you know, like running the Wendy's Twitter account or something. I really don't think that YouTubing teaches you that many valuable cross-disciplinary skills. There's some things, you know, like I can politely write an email to request free things, like for example a code for Watch Dogs Legion. No thank you. I'm gonna say no thank you on that one. Not to Watch Dogs Legion. On Watch Dogs Legion, I'm just waiting for the multiplayer. By the way, I apologize, but we do have Satanic Bible yet again. I don't know, it's like a recent update made this, no thank you, we can do better. A recent update made this item show up constantly, which is absolutely fantastic for the record. I think, you know, I do have, and have really sharpened, like by the whetstone of community, my ability to tell a story as well. I do feel like I'm tapped into the idea that, you know, a story's got to have a point, and then it's got to have not necessarily a beginning, a middle, and an end, but you got to... It's less about getting the information or the story out and more about making people feel a certain way. So sometimes you send them down, you know, a left turn out of nowhere, and then you bring them back, and, you know, you get the idea. But again, most jobs that you would interview for, people wouldn't be like, hey, tell me a story. That's not too applicable, at least. Okay, thank you, the soul there. But I do think it comes with a certain amount of, there's occasional positives. You know, you have essentially run your own business for... Let me put it this way. I feel like you could learn a lot about somebody based on the way they run their YouTube channel. Maybe I'm being a little overly complimentary to myself here. But I think if I was like, hey, I ran a YouTube channel for 10 years. And then, you know, I showed it to them and they were like, whoa, that's like 20,000 videos. I'd be like, yeah, I know, right? I wasn't just faking it. They'd be like, this guy's great at grunt work. He can man the cash register. Honestly, when I was younger, and even now, although I guess it's more of like a concern with automation and self-checkout and stuff like that, I always thought that like being a cashier would be kind of like a cool job. You get to learn the prices of objects. That's a big thing for me, to learn the price of an object. If I ever go on The Price is Right, how's that for an interdisciplinary skill? You get to do math. I know that the cash register does the math for you, but you could like constantly hone your mathematical skill, right? You know, if it comes to, you know, 1761 and someone gives you a 20, You could race the cash register and be like, ah, it's 239. He'd be like, hit the button. You hit the button, it's 239. You'd be like, see? I don't need a computer. And he'd be like, that's cool, but I'm paying on, like, credit and debit, so you don't really need to give me change anymore. It's actually an antiquated skill. We don't really use cash anymore. It's true. It is true. Like, you know, it's a lost art. The ability to subtract a number from 5, 10, 20, 50. It's becoming a lost art. It's sad. It's sad, really. There are, and actually, I think I had this anecdote before COVID. I went to a restaurant that it literally did not accept cash, which I think honestly might be like kind of illegal. Like, there's restaurants that are cash only. And, you know, we all know why they're cash only. They say that it's to avoid paying the processing fees to Visa, MasterCard, and American Express, but really it's probably so they have plausible deniability in case they ever get audited by the National Tax Service, which is fine, because they tend to have some truly delicious food. And you know, it's not any of my business. I don't work for the Canada Revenue Agency. But then it was kind of weird, but like way more palatable for me to come across a business that was like, we don't accept cash at all. Kind of makes more sense when you think about it, right? Like, I know I'm not qualified to have this conversation, but like, money is a very strange concept. And I don't mean like we should abolish money. Like, I understand that, you know, it serves a purpose in essentially allowing transactions to take place, we'll take it, in society. Like, it's so much easier, and I say this particularly as somebody who has no barterable goods or skills, but it's so much easier, you know, to use some kind of like surrogate currency, like a stand-in for something of actual value, than it is to just barter. Like, can you imagine how long it would take to buy like a hamburger for McDonald's if you had to go in and like negotiate your own purchase price? You'd get people coming in. You'd have to have a PhD just to, you know, man the cash register at McDonald's. It's true. There's people who come in there and be like, I'll tell you what, if you give me a certificate that allows me to get 100 hamburgers, if you ever need, you know, a pane of glass replaced on the restaurant, I'll do it. You know, it's just, it would become truly ridiculous. And at the same time, the concept of like a piece of paper actually holding that kind of value is kind of absurd, right? I know people talk about the idea that like it's even more absurd that like now like wealth is all digital, more or less. I mean, like, you could own gold and you could own, you know, stocks and stuff like that. You can own, you know, crypto, and you know, these are like kind of real things, but at the same time, it's not. I mean, gold is a little bit different. But even then, I'm like, you know, when people are like, "Oh, money's bad, gold's good," I'm like, "What are you talking about, dude?" You think everybody's always assuming that like when the world economy collapses, gold is gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna use gold to, you know, go to the store and buy nails. I'm like, I don't know. I think you're gonna go to the store with your gold and they're gonna take your gold from you. I don't know, but I don't know. Okay, I'm not trying to. I'm trying to acknowledge my own ignorance. Okay, and figure out where we stand here. I understand that gold is also a hedge against inflation. Okay, we'll grab this. We might as well. We might as well not. But like now, if you're like Jeff Bezos, let's say, he has wealth. He has appreciable like concrete wealth. You know, he owns things, planes, houses, etc., etc. But like, how much of his wealth is actually just an illusion that we all agree upon? What do I mean by this weird statement? Well, I mean, like, you know, just because he owns Amazon, what does that mean? You know, there's a piece of paper, you know, in the articles of the incorporation from 1995 that's like, hey, this guy, he owns the company. It's immaterial, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. It's basically I need to take a course in business. I guess that's what I'm trying to say in order to Because the wealth is projected, you know? Let me put it, you never play EU4? And like, you know, let's say you were playing as like, trying to think, like you were playing as Baden, okay? It's like a 2-province state in Central Europe. You're not going to go to war with France. But why aren't you going to go to war with France? Ah, because they have a big army. But can you see the big army? No, but they have the ability to muster the big army. Source, dude, just trust me. You know what I mean? I guess what I'm trying to say is, at any point, you know, if, let's say, like, you have money, it's in your bank account. Let's say you have $1 billion in your bank account. Is there actually, like, a box at the bank that's labeled, like, rich dude with $1 billion in it? No, right? It's a series of accounts and ledgers and credits and debits. What if the bank one day was just like, sorry, we lost it. There was a rounding error. All of a sudden, you're like broke now. You got nothing, right? Maybe? I don't know. I guess we got other things to worry about at that point, like the collapse of society as we know it. I'm just saying, it's like it's an illusion that we all agree to take part in simultaneously. But what if we stopped? What would happen at that point? You ever think about that? Look, it's only 9:07 a.m. It's not the right time to be discussing such radical ideas. I guess here's what I'm saying. And I'm not saying it's better or worse. If anything, I'm saying it's better now. Especially better for me, because again, I don't have any appreciable skills that are useful to the populace at large, except for perhaps being like an entertaining court jester. Like if we lived in the Middle Ages, I could like entertain the king and then also be the guy who like, you know, warms up his toilet seat in the winter so that his bum doesn't get cold. That's about my lot in life, I think. And if it kept me in velvet slippers, I would be happy to do it. However, like, you know, 1,000 years ago, you'd be like, that guy's rich. Why is he rich? Well, look at it. He's got like 3,000 sheep. Now you're like, oh, that guy's rich. Why is he rich? Oh, look at him. He's got a suit on. It's just, I don't know, man. I'm just spitballing here. I'm not trying to, you know, get radical or anything like that. I'm just saying. It doesn't strike you as strange, like when somebody gives you a piece of paper, all of a sudden you're like, in your head, you're like, this isn't a piece of paper, this is 4 hamburgers. I don't know. It's just, I understand the reason for money's existence. Cash in particular is just kind of, it's strange to me. I do understand that, you know, there's reasons for cash. Isn't there like we're going through kind of a weird pseudo-crisis right now because so many places are going cashless because of COVID, but, you know, the elderly disproportionately use cash as a, you know, means of purchasing things? I thought I read an article about that at some point. And by read an article, I mean I saw that there was an article about it, and I read the headline and went, oh, this doesn't affect me that much, and I went to TMZ.com, where I get all my news from, and, you know, we moved on from that point. So what the heck am I going to do? That's what I'm thinking right here. What the heck am I going to do with this Yera rune? I don't have an answer for you. What I do know is that this run is good. But get back to talking about movies and television. Stop trying to tear down the fabric of the economic theory. I just don't, like, I'm not saying the system's bad. I'm just saying, isn't it weird that, like, if you went to the bank to get a house or to apply for a mortgage, they would, like, look at a number in your account and be like, yeah, you can have this mortgage. You got enough numbers to cover the numbers that are the cost of the house. I'm just... What guarantees that you own what you own, I guess? It's the FDIC, right? Which I only know from the movie Heat. We're not here for your money, we're here for the bank's money. Your money is federally insured, etc., etc. Anyway. I know too little about economics to get involved in this discussion. It's probably quite frustrating. If you know what you're talking about. If you don't know what you're talking about, you're like, this guy's starting to make sense. the first time I've ever agreed with this guy in 2,000 videos. Anyway, we're playing Isaac. We've been holding this Yara rune for about, you know, I would say 17 minutes and 43 seconds. Pretty exciting. This will be... Oh, I mean, I just walked out. What were you thinking there? Jeez Louise. You don't want to walk out. You would have missed out on 1.5 spirit hearts that you can then turn into demon hearts. What do we got here? I mean, it's going to take a lot. Yeah, probably we will not do it for Tiny Planet, the item that actually, like, ruined a couple streaks ago. Don't talk to me about that, please. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much, like, what's been going on. That's about it. Baby stuff, you know how it is. I mean, I haven't talked about how little sleep I got, which is how you know I got a great sleep last night. I was kind of mad when the baby woke me up this morning, and then I looked over at the clock and realized it was actually like 7 a.m. Baby slept from like midnight to 7. Which is, it's actually bad because, like, the baby's really supposed to sleep well, like, at this point, probably like 3 to 4 hours at a time. Because, you know, their stomachs are so small that, you know, they really, like, it's not like, they're like the opposite of a bear. You know, babies don't really, like, hibernate, they hypernate. Which is not how those words actually get conjugated, I think, but you get what I'm saying. They sleep in, like, little micro bursts, and then they wake up and they eat. They might sleep a lot throughout the day, but it's more like cat nap, feed, cat nap, feed. But there's, like, 2 different philosophies, because I've been talking it out with my mom. She's like, you know, like, parenting strategies go through phases. And, you know, when I was a baby, she said the phase was much more like, you know, make the baby fit the parents' lives than have the parents fit the baby's life. So the adage back then was like, you never wake up a sleeping baby because you want the baby to sleep as much as possible so that you can get some work done. And, you know, if the baby's sleeping at night, you don't want to wake up the baby just so you have to wake up as well, and maybe you're more miserable the next day. It was, you know, and the idea was that it was self-regulatory, right? You know, if the baby gets so hungry that they need to eat, they'll wake up and cry. They don't need you to wake them up and you know, force them to eat. But then we're in like a, I mean, you know, the science changes for one, but also like the culture changes. I think right now we're in a phase where, at least in the west coast of Canada, for sure. And I say that as kind of a self-own. We're like, oh yeah, the parents' lives don't really like matter that much. It's all about making sure that the newborn is as happy and as healthy as possible. So you should wake it up every like 3 hours and make sure that you're feeding. At the end of the day, you know, I default to whatever. I mean, 2 things. The current wisdom doesn't mean that much to me. It's more about like what, you know, my wife wants to do. If my wife was like, we're gonna feed the baby formula and sleep for 8 hours, I'd be like, you know what? Plenty of formula babies have gone on to achieve great things in their lives. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But you know, the flip side is if she was like, we're gonna wake up the baby every 2 hours and like exclusively nurse, I would be like, all right, you know, this baby is gonna be like in the 99th percentile, like Bart Harley Jarvis. But I think we're definitely in the, we have the culture over here right now of like, your life no longer matters. Which is fair, to be honest, but like, your life no longer matters, it's all about the baby now. It's supposed to wake up the baby all the time, but last night we didn't wake up the baby slept well, and honestly, seems fine to me. I think we're just happy where we stand here, I think. I don't know, you know, it's one of those things where I find myself becoming that, like, unfair critic, where I'm like, no matter what you can kind of get yourself into this radical centrist, you know, nurturing position, where you're like, no matter what, the baby's gonna be fine, because, you know, people have been raising babies for, like, you know, I mean, from a mammalian standpoint, like, millions of years, right? From a humanity standpoint, like, hundreds of thousands of years. And, you know, they've turned out fine. But then when you really think about it, you're like, I don't know. I don't know, did they? Because sometimes, like, you know, you'll read about, like, you know, child upbringing techniques from, like, the 1960s. You're like, I don't think we should have done that. I don't know if it actually had an impact, but I'm pretty sure you should not dip your pacifier in sugar so that the child takes it more easily. I'm also pretty sure that if your child is colicky, you should not feed them like a thimble full of whiskey in order to get them to fall asleep. Just my 2 cents. Is it going to cause, like, is it likely to cause long-term damage? No. I mean, I'm not a doctor, so I can't responsibly say that, I guess. But, you know, I'm sure there's I interact with plenty of people every single day whose parents were like, the baby won't sleep. Just give it a quick thimbleful of whiskey. And, you know, they're turned out fine, although they never use their signal lights. And maybe now I finally have a proximate cause for that. But yeah, you know, it's constantly evolving. But I really doubt it's going to come down to, you know, did you wake up the baby every 3 hours? Mom, Dad, I got a letter from Harvard. That's great. Let's see if you got accepted. Dear baby, you don't get to go to Harvard because your parents, you know, your IQ dropped 3/4 of a point because your parents didn't wake you up every 2 hours. Instead, they woke you up every 4 hours consistently. And sorry, now you get to work. I don't even understand like why this is valuable, but you get to work at one of those jobs where like you have a pickaxe and you're just breaking rocks in half. Like, I don't understand. Is there some kind of like, are you creating gravel? Surely there's got to be some kind of better industrialized process for gravel creation. It can't just be like a bunch of people holding a pickaxe. But anyway, that's what you're gonna do for the rest of your life now. I'm just saying. But I will say, you know, where do you fall on the parental strategy? To me, whatever you say honestly doesn't matter. I'm listening to the scientists on it for sure. But I will say, Kate has been watching some mommy vloggers, and there are some people that are like, I mean, more power to you, don't get me wrong. But I'm also like, man, you're going like really hard on this mommy stuff. You know, there's people like on YouTube that upload videos of them giving birth. I was my mom was telling me that, I don't know, she's not really my cousin. You know, like, you ever, I don't know if anybody else has these like blurred family lines, but I have like people that I would go to family reunions and I would see them at family reunions when I was a child, but I never really knew how they were related to me, if they were like a second cousin, or if they were like my dad's friend who also happens to live in the area, so they show up all the time. Like, anyway, so somebody I knew from my childhood like that live streamed her birth on Facebook Live, and I was like, is she an influencer? She's not an influencer. She's just like she's a nurse, I think. So just like, as a streamer, the first question that came to my mind that is still unresolved is why. Like, it's not even monetizable because, you know, that's not your profession. You're really just gonna be like, hey, honey, like, let's go through the checklist so we can get ready to stream our birth on Facebook Live. Like, they did it in like a swimming pool in their backyard or something. It's just, I mean, it's different strokes for different folks, and I don't want to offend anybody watching this. You know, at the end of the day, the way that you choose to go through that process is very personal, and it's up to you, right? It's not for me to say. But I do want to ask her some questions. Even when we had the delivery, you know, at the moment of, I don't know what the word is, the moment just prior to the baby, you know, coming out, the doctor was like, do you want us to like hook up your phone via Bluetooth and you could play, do you have like a birth playlist? I'm like, people come in here with a birth playlist? Like, when they have their baby, they want the baby's the first thing they hear to be like, lights will guide you home. Like, we got other problems here. We got, you know, I'm not saying, like, I get it, you know, people have these moments in their head, like they want to create these sentimental things and have a song permanently attached to it, but I'm like, you know, doctor, I was gonna say lady, doctor, we're trying to, you know, this is a serious thing here. I don't want to put on like Led Zeppelin right now. I just want to focus on, you know, seeing if our child comes out with 10 fingers, 10 toes, you know. I don't want to have you get distracted either. Be like, I don't know. It's very judgmental of me, I'll admit. I have like a judgmental paradox, I guess, and I think it's meant to be like almost self-defense for me. I do judge people in the sense that like I will look at their behavior and form an opinion on it. But I also like, I don't know, I come to this sort of philosophy that's like, you know, as long as you're not hurting anybody, I don't really care. But at the same time, I am definitely like, you have a birth playlist? Like, Kate was showing me one video where, like, this couple was having, they were doing a water birth, which already freaks me out. Like, and again, this is more on me than on anybody else, but the fact that, like, you give birth in the water and then your baby's kind of, like, swimming around, that freaks me out. Because, you know what it means to me is that we forget how to swim. You think you're learning how to swim when you're a kid, but actually, like, you already know, dude. You just forget it. And if that's true, then maybe the rest of the movie Baby Geniuses, where we're all very smart until the age of 3 and then we lose all our intelligence, maybe that's true too. What else can they get us to believe, you know? But I felt so bad for the husband. I mean, don't get me wrong, I felt bad for the mother as well, because she's the one going through the birth. But the husband, like, the mom clearly had, like, such a specific birth plan. But when you're doing, like, a natural delivery, you never know, you know, when the actual moment's gonna pop, right? So she had, like, this playlist that she wanted him to play, but she wanted it timed appropriately, but you never know if this is gonna be the contraction that's gonna be the real one. So she was like, go, play it. And then they played it, and then she's like, oh, that was a false alarm. Now again, you know, it's your birth. You make the magic moment however you want to make the magic moment. But I just find myself, you know, asking the question, like, isn't life complicated enough? Like, we had to bring a lot of stuff to the hospital. I don't want to also be like, oh, honey, did you get the Spotify playlist? Like, don't get me wrong. I understand the mixtape culture. I made many mixed CDs when I was in high school. And the whole track listing and the way that they flow together, and, you know, oh, we had an inside joke about the photographer known as Richard Avedon, so maybe put Stephen Malkmus's Gardenia on that, because he's got a little tongue-in-cheek reference to Richard Avedon, and, you know, it's a whole thing. There's an art to it. But also, like, I had nothing to do back then. Go to school, okay, done. 17 seconds of homework, and then, you know, I got time. Taken after a child, I don't want to be like, oh, you know, the birth was perfect, you know, she came out just fine, she was happy and healthy, but unfortunately, like, they played the wrong Sigur Rós song at the moment that she crowned, so put her back in. It's forever ruined. Anyway, it's a weird episode. We talked about some stuff I'm not sure society is ready to hear. NL for president, and that's 25 wins in a row. For now, thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, click the like button. Helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. See ya!